Hello, Golden State Warriors fans. Welcome back to the channel with another exclusive update. And I can't stress enough how important it is for you to subscribe and smash that like button, because this is the place to stay on top of everything happening with our team every single day. Tonight, we're breaking down some of the most exciting moments, some areas of concern, and what this team is capable of as we continue through the season. Let me tell you, the past few games have been incredible to watch. Not just because of the wins, but because of the storylines that are starting to emerge, the chemistry developing on the floor, and the intensity that this Warriors team brings night in and night out. Watching the matchup against the Spurs, I was glued to the screen, and I kept thinking to myself, this is going to be special, and it absolutely delivered. Steph Curry, as usual, was instrumental, not just scoring when it mattered, but leading the team in that way that only he can, orchestrating the offense, finding open teammates, and making those clutch plays when the pressure was at its peak. The Warriors were fighting back the entire time, responding punch for punch. And even though the Spurs had the size advantage with Wembanyama, which we all knew would be a challenge, the Warriors never backed down. That persistence and ability to battle through adversity really showed the strength of this team, the cohesion, and how they are collectively invested in the same goal. You could see the impact of the team meeting that Draymond and Jimmy gave earlier in the week. They talked about eliminating hidden agendas and truly playing for each other, and it felt like that message stuck. The Warriors went 2 for 2 against a Spurs team that many consider one of the toughest in the league, and that speaks volumes about their mindset. It wasn't just about winning. It was about learning, identifying areas to improve, and seeing how far they can push themselves against elite competition. For instance, take that lob alley-oop foul on Draymond Green. If you watch the side angle that's been circulating online, it really highlighted the issue. There's only so much a 6 feet 6 inches guy can do against someone like Wembanyama. His length and athleticism create mismatches that the Warriors simply have to address if they want to be true championship contenders. Draymond is a warrior in every sense, but even he has limits when facing players of that size, and that's not a knock on him. It's just the reality of the matchup. The Warriors need to find a way to counter that, whether through strategic rotations, a trade, or developing their current big men, so they can provide resistance without fouling. Because in a 7-game series, these matchups aren't going away. They're going to be exploited over and over, and if Golden State wants to compete at the highest level, it has to be addressed. Looking back at the Spurs game, even beyond the obvious highlights, there are lessons in the numbers. Wembanyama played 38 minutes, putting up 26 points and 12 rebounds. And while he didn't rack up as many assists as he has in other games, he was effective and consistent throughout the matchup. This is not just a talent. This is a generational player impacting the game at every level. Then you have Stephon Castle logging 36 minutes, demonstrating why he's been such a key piece since his draft. He's a fantastic two-way player, someone who can score off the ball, defend multiple positions, and stretch defenses in ways that create opportunities for others. Pair him with someone like SGA on the Spurs, and you've got a balanced attack that is extremely difficult to slow down. This season, the Warriors know that any path to the championship will likely go through a team like the Spurs or Oklahoma City. Beating them twice in a row shows promise, but it also highlights where attention is needed. The center position is one of those areas. Quentin Post only played 7 minutes against Wembanyama, and relying on Al Horford or Draymond in those situations is simply not sustainable long-term. They need a true big man who can challenge elite players in the paint, absorb pressure, and not risk fouling out or losing the matchup. It's not just about one game. It's about the grind of the season, maintaining energy, and being ready for the playoffs, where these mismatches can be series-deciding. Now, shifting to the game against New Orleans, that was a completely different dynamic. The Warriors controlled the tempo from the start. They set the tone early, scoring 44 points in the first quarter and building a comfortable lead. It wasn't just a win. It was a statement that this team can dominate when they have full control. Interestingly, it wasn't necessarily Steph, Draymond, or even Jimmy who carried the bulk of the scoring. Moses Moody stepped up in a big way, showing that he is not just a bench contributor, but a critical piece of this lineup. He combined with Will Richard to provide scoring, spacing, and energy, allowing the team to thrive even when the main stars were in single digits. The kind of depth is exactly what championship-caliber teams need. Players who can step in and maintain performance under pressure. The small ball lineup may have its limitations against elite bigs, but against teams like New Orleans, it worked beautifully. The Warriors proved they could balance their offense, share the load, and win without relying on one or two players to carry the entire game. That's an encouraging sign, especially as the season progresses and rotation depth becomes increasingly important. Of course, the larger concern remains the big man rotation. Games like the Spurs matchup highlight the gaps. 7-footer minutes are minimal, and putting Draymond or Kuminga in the middle isn't enough against elite front lines. The Warriors need size, they need versatility, and they need consistent production from their big men. If not addressed, it could become a problem when facing teams with multiple bigs who can wear out the smaller, quicker players over a full series. Right now, the wins feel good and morale is high, but these are signals for strategic action, whether that's trading, acquiring, or adjusting development plans for the younger players. Moses Moody and Will Richard are locked in as key contributors, and that's a huge plus. However, there are others, like Kuminga and Pods, who may see reduced roles as the team looks to optimize performance and rotation balance. Addressing these gaps now will ensure the Warriors are positioned to survive the long season and be true contenders when playoff time comes. The takeaway from these early games is clear. Golden State can win in multiple ways. They have the depth to cover for off nights from stars, and they are resilient in tough matchups. But the big men's issue can't be ignored, and careful management of minutes and rotations will be essential. The Warriors are a team built on cohesion, intelligence, and elite skill, and they have shown they can overcome adversity, but smart adjustments will define whether they can sustain success against the league's top competition. This is the kind of analysis and breakdown we need to watch as the season unfolds to understand not just what the Warriors are winning, but how and why these wins matter in the bigger picture. Moving on from the New Orleans game, the Warriors now turn their attention to Orlando, and this matchup will be a fascinating test of how well they can maintain control against a team with a strong front court and depth in the post. Orlando isn't a team to underestimate, even if they aren't seen as a top-tier contender right now. They have a collection of bigs who can wear down opponents with consistent minutes and physicality, and that's exactly the type of challenge that will test Golden State's rotation. Wendell Carter Jr. is a solid presence in the paint, and alongside him are other bigs who may not grab headlines but have the length, skill, and conditioning to exploit any weaknesses in the Warriors lineup. The concern, once again, is minutes and matchups. Quentin Post's limited time on the court in previous games highlights this problem. He's a 7-footer who can stretch the floor and provide spacing while also being able to guard bigger opponents. Putting him in for just single-digit minutes leaves the team vulnerable, and the heavy reliance on Draymond or Al Horford to cover for size is not sustainable over the long haul. It's a balancing act that Steve Kerr and his coaching staff have to manage carefully, because while the Warriors have the talent to win games, overextending players like Draymond can lead to diminished effectiveness and increased risk of injury as the season progresses. Now, speaking of rotations and contributions, it's impressive how much depth the Warriors are starting to show. Moses Moody continues to be a revelation, providing scoring, defense, and a steady presence on both ends of the floor. Will Richard has also emerged as a critical piece, complementing the stars and stepping up when needed. What we're seeing is the true benefit of a system where multiple players are capable of taking over a game when the main stars are in a slump or being neutralized by defensive schemes. That versatility is exactly what the Warriors need to survive the grind of an 82-game season and, ultimately, a tough playoff run. Buddy Hield's contributions off the bench, combined with Pod's ability to stretch the floor and score efficiently, give Kerr options that many teams don't have. This allows the Warriors to stay unpredictable, rotate effectively, and avoid over-reliance on any one player. It also gives them the ability to rest their stars without losing momentum, which is crucial when facing teams with deep benches and talented lineups. Despite all this, the big man issue looms large. The Spurs game reminded everyone that size matters, and the upcoming matchups against Orlando and Miami will only reinforce that point. Even if the Warriors win these games, the physical toll of relying on undersized players in the middle cannot be ignored. Draymond, as incredible as he is not a true center, and over time, that will limit his effectiveness, particularly in playoff situations where every possession matters. Al Horford can provide spacing and veteran savvy, but he isn't someone who can log heavy minutes at the 5 against elite front lines. Quinn Post, if given more consistent minutes, could be the answer to some of these problems, but that requires trust, development, and smart rotation management. Otherwise, teams with multiple 6 feet 10 inches to 7-foot players are going to exploit mismatches repeatedly, and that could become a critical weakness in a playoff series. Looking beyond Orlando, the road ahead for Golden State will be a true test of resilience and strategic planning. Miami, for example, is a team with a high-powered offense and a disciplined defensive scheme, and the Warriors will need to match intensity, execution, and strategic flexibility to come out on top. The margin for error is smaller, and every possession counts. While the wins against the Spurs and New Orleans are encouraging, the real measure of this team will be how they handle games where the margin is tight, the opponent is physical, and the matchups are unfavorable. This is where depth, smart rotations, and versatile players like Moody and Will Richard become essential. It's also why the development and utilization of Quinn Post could be a season-defining factor. If he can consistently hold his own in the middle and provide spacing on offense, the Warriors suddenly have a much more balanced and difficult-to-beat lineup. Another point to consider is the wear and tear on veteran players. Draymond and Al Horford have been outstanding, but as the season progresses, age and heavy minutes can start to impact their performance, especially in back-to-back games or long stretches against elite opponents. Steve Kerr has to manage not just the minutes, but also the energy, confidence, and rhythm of his veterans while integrating young talent into the rotation. Balancing experience and youth is tricky, but it's exactly what separates great teams from good teams. The Warriors have shown the ability to get wins through adaptability, but to maintain this through a full season and into the playoffs, addressing these rotation challenges is crucial. Offensively, the team has shown remarkable flexibility. Even when Steph or Jimmy have off nights, other players step up, whether it's Moses Moody exploding for 32 points or Buddy Hield chipping in double-digit scoring. This ability to spread the floor, share scoring responsibilities, and keep the offense dynamic is one of the Warriors' most significant advantages. It also creates matchup nightmares for opponents who try to focus on stopping just one or two players. The challenge, however, remains in high-stakes games against elite defensive teams with size, length, and versatility. That's where the big man issue once again intersects with strategy. Without a consistent, reliable presence in the paint, the Warriors risk being out-rebounded, losing second-chance points, and struggling to control the pace in critical moments. Before we continue, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any exclusive Dubs updates. Let's keep going. The atmosphere around the Warriors has been electric, but not in the way fans might hope. Whispers and heated debates have dominated social media and local sports bars ever since SADDIQ BEY's post-game comments sent shockwaves through the fan base. Sources close to the team suggest that BEY's words, which were meant to be measured, instead ignited a firestorm among the faithful, leaving supporters questioning the player's perspective and, more importantly, his loyalty to the city that has embraced him. According to insiders, BEY's remarks touched on topics that fans consider sacred: the team's culture, their recent struggles, and the expectations of those who pack the arena week after week. Though BEY reportedly intended to convey confidence and resilience, the phrasing came off as dismissive to a segment of the crowd, sparking outrage that has yet to subside. Social media threads overflowed with memes, hot takes, and, in some cases, threats of boycotts. Season ticket holders, known for their patience, are now vocally frustrated, and chatter in fan forums suggests that some are even reconsidering their long-term support. Sources close to team management indicate that internal discussions are already underway. Coaches and executives are said to be concerned about morale and optics, debating whether a public clarification is needed or if the matter should remain behind closed doors. Meanwhile, rival teams are reportedly monitoring the situation closely, sensing a potential advantage if internal tensions spill onto the court. While BEY has not issued a formal statement beyond the initial comments, his teammates are reportedly attempting to smooth things over. Yet, according to some whispers, there are divisions within the locker room, with a few players privately expressing that the timing of BEY's words couldn't have been worse. Pundits are speculating whether this incident could influence upcoming trades, rotations, or even contract negotiations, and betting insiders are already weighing fan sentiment as a possible factor in market predictions. For now, the Warriors fan base remains in turmoil. Conversations that once revolve around stats and strategy have shifted to interpretations of BEY's intent, the unspoken pressures of playing in a high-expectation environment, and what it truly means to represent a franchise with such passionate supporters. One thing is certain: the buzz isn't fading anytime soon, and BEY's post-game comments may linger longer than anyone expected. Stay updated exclusively with the latest Dub Nation news. Subscribe to our channel and hit the like button to keep getting daily updates on the Warriors. Don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments. Your input is essential for the Dubs community. Stay tuned for the next video.